I think it's story time. And I think that maybe you know how this goes and you might want to take a moment to get really comfortable. And while you're doing that, I will tell you that this podcast and these stories are supported by patrons. So if these stories feed you in some way and you would like to offer something back and become a patron too, you can do that on patreon.com/Can I Tell You a Story. That's patreon.com/Can I Tell You a Story, where you will receive bonus stories and other mysterious things. Mysterious and excellent. I hope that you are comfortable. Let's begin. Every morning, Annie opened the back door of her little white weatherboard house, and to her surprise, the outside world was still there, and it still looked much the same. She was still 42 years old, and she still had a demon sitting on her shoulder, telling her she'd never amount to much. For the most part, Annie was inclined to agree. I mean, look around, she'd say, disparaging. Wasn't I supposed to do something by now? Something more? Have some kind of idea of what this life is for? Be doing something big and impressive? I'm not changing the world. I'm vacuuming my faded living room carpet. I'm heaving the threadbare rug outside and manhandling it over the rotary clothesline, beating the dust out with a broom. It's all small, mundane. There's nothing grand or particularly meaningful happening here. Yes, said the demon. Look at you. She did look sometimes, scrutinizing herself in the bathroom mirror with a frown, looking for something, some kind of hint or suggestion. Surely there would be a sign that any minute now she was going to figure out what she was going to do, and then she was going to go and do it. Moments passed, and in the mirror, nothing kept happening. So eventually she'd go and put the kettle on instead. Feel like a cuppa? She'd say to the demon, who usually didn't reply. She'd take her tea and sit outside on a rusty old iron garden chair, heavy as the demon on her shoulder, and look at the two tall white-trunked trees that stood like sentinels in the grass. Their fallen leaves smelled sharp and welcoming, but Annie never knew how to accept their welcome, so she just sat and drank tea and looked at them, the demon on her shoulder sighing in her ear. You should have figured it out by now, said the demon. Yes, said Annie, wondering what it was that she was supposed to have figured out. The demon never seemed to say. All of everything, she supposed, this life. What do you think you're doing with yourself? Said the demon. It was never really a question. This run-down house, this patch of long grass, this scraggly succulent in a terracotta pot on the square of cracked concrete next to the back door steps. Yes, said Annie, there should be more to it, more of me. I probably need more to work with. Perhaps I need a haircut. That's right, said the demon, stamping its feet. Annie sat and looked at the two tall white trees. It was a yellowish kind of day, yellow with a touch of melancholy. She was wearing a pale yellow skirt to match. The fabric brushed her toes bare on the concrete. Your cup has a crack in it, said the demon. Said Annie, but I like this cup. The cup was cornflower blue, and the curve of it fit nicely in her hands. It was a friendly cup, she felt. It's broken, said the demon. You should buy a new one, a green one, to match the tea towel, 2 of them, in case you have company. Yes, said Annie, you're probably right. That's right, said the demon. I am. Annie felt lopsided with the weight of the demon's heavy body like a doorstop on her shoulder. She wondered why it only ever sat on her right shoulder, but she didn't like to ask in case it did something different. All things considered, she preferred predictability. Annie went inside for a biscuit. She pulled the tin off the shelf. It had daisies on it. She opened the tin and looked in. You're doing it wrong, said the demon. You're supposed to have a biscuit with tea, together, not as an afterthought when your tea's almost finished. Annie dropped the tin on the kitchen table with a clatter. There was a small woman in the bottom of the biscuit tin. The woman winked at her. Look what you did, said the demon. You're so clumsy. You always drop things. Said Annie, distracted. Gingerly, she picked up the tin and looked in. The small woman was still there. She wore large bifocal spectacles and had her hair in a messy greying bun. She was holding a ginger biscuit, bigger than her head, in both hands, nibbling the edge of it. Said Annie. Hello? Hello, said the woman. Want a biscuit? These are rather good. I know, said Annie. I made them. Did you? That was very clever of you, said the woman. Would you mind putting the tin back on the table? You're wobbling it. Here, she added, holding up a biscuit with both hands. Annie set the tin carefully back on the table, reached in and accepted the biscuit. You're talking to a tiny woman in a biscuit tin, said the demon. This is not a good sign. Who's that? Said the tiny woman. It need a biscuit too. Seems a bit of a downer. Said Annie. It's just kind of always been there. She pulled a seat out and sat down at the kitchen table, the sound of the chair scraping across the floor reassuringly solid and normal. She broke her biscuit in half and bit into one of the halves. Do you? Said Annie to the demon. Want a biscuit? She's right, they are pretty good. The demon ignored her. It usually does that, Annie told the woman in the biscuit tin, when I'm trying to be nice. Why do you put up with it? Asked the woman. Annie opened her mouth to reply and felt the demon sit heavier on her shoulder like a storm warning. She closed her mouth again, with the words still inside it. With some effort, the woman in the biscuit tin picked up her biscuit and nibbled more of the edge. I'm sorry, said Annie. What for? Said the woman in the biscuit tin with her mouth full. You shouldn't be so apologetic, said the demon. You really need to learn to be less like a doormat. People walk all over you all the time, and you let them. Yeah, said Annie vaguely. I know. Her attention was with the woman in the biscuit tin. I'm sorry, she said again, but who are you? Oh, said the woman. Fairy godmother. Got a wand and some wings around here somewhere. She dug under the biscuits and pulled out a small stick and a pair of battered wings that looked like purple stockings stretched over bent coat hangers, with pieces of elastic to serve as straps to hold them in place. I see, said Annie, who didn't at all. What are you doing in my biscuit tin? Eating a pretty good ginger biscuit, said the fairy godmother. You should say what you mean, Annie, said the demon. You're always confusing people. That's why they don't like talking to you. Your communication skills aren't very good. Shut it, hamjaw, said the fairy godmother to the demon. To Annie, she said, I'm here to do some fairy godmothering. Usually happens when you're born, protection spells and gifts and whatnot, but... She waved a hand in the general direction of nowhere in particular. I was running late. You were running late, said Annie. I'm 42. She felt the demon bouncing on her shoulder like it wanted to interject, but the fairy godmother's admonishment seemed to be holding. A small corner of Annie noticed this and wondered. Yeah, said the fairy godmother. Got distracted. She looked at the demon, perched on Annie's shoulder like an overbearing parrot. Probably would have been better for you if I'd gotten here sooner, but better late than never, right? She pushed her spectacles up her nose and brushed biscuit crumbs from her hands. Benefit of coming now is that you can talk, she continued. So what'll it be? Want to grow into the most beautiful maiden in all the land? Develop cleverness and wit, such as the kingdom has never before seen. Attract accolades from all corners of the realm. Annie imagined the demon scoffing. Her? Beauty? Intelligence? Fame? She's 42 years old and she's, well, Annie. Annie couldn't help but agree. I mean, look at her. Look at the tiny, insignificant life she's lived. That's right, she could almost hear the demon say. When she looked back at the fairy godmother, the tiny woman was looking at the demon with narrowed eyes. We'll just start with a protection spell, shall we? She said. Do something about old Hamjaw here. The demon tightened its grip on Annie's shoulder like it was afraid. Annie had never known the demon to be afraid before. Wait, said Annie. The fairy godmother and the demon both looked at her. Annie took a breath. I'm not sure I understand any of this. Kingdoms? Realms? I live in the suburbs. There's not really a kingdom. There's no king, unless you count Mick the mattress king at the homemaker centre. She's offering you what you've been waiting for, said the demon, being told to shut up having worn off. Your birthright. After this, your life can finally start, you can finally do something, be something, and you're quibbling about kingdoms. Your priorities are all messed up. Annie turned her head, so she was nose to nose with the demon. What do you want? she asked it through gritted teeth. I'm either not enough or too much or too loud or too quiet or trying too hard or not trying hard enough. What do you want from me? What are you trying to achieve? The demon shrank a little under her glare. I want everything for you, it said in a small voice. Right, said Annie. She wants to give me everything. Annie gestured to the fairy godmother, who was sitting back on a pile of biscuits, looking regal with her feet up on the edge of the biscuit tin. She brought a wand. You heard her. Charm and beauty and talent and wealth. And she's offering to get rid of you. I'd be able to stand up straight, not always bent under the weight of you. I'd be able to be whoever I was, without being told I'm wrong all the time. Said the demon, quailing. Counter-offer? The fairy godmother had acquired a small beer from somewhere and was sipping it while she cackled to herself. I'm listening, said Annie. I'll change. I'll be your biggest fan. I'll be ever so encouraging. You won't. The fairy godmother fell backwards off her pile of biscuits amidst peals of laughter, waving her legs in the air and showing her bright pink underthings, not spilling a drop of her beer. Can't trust a word of it. The demon glowered. I'll hire help, it said. What kind of help? Therapy? No, like a counterweight. The demon looked a little shamefaced. We're supposed to come in pairs, actually. You know, like shoulder demon, shoulder angel? Might have stolen your original assigned shoulder angel's halo, and maybe I ate it. I thought it was made of chocolate. Can't be an angel without a halo, so it couldn't come. Annie thought about this for a moment and then gave up. 3-month trial, she said. You'll regret this, said the demon. Won't regret this. You'll see. I'll start auditioning angels first thing tomorrow. Said Annie to the fairy godmother. I think perhaps I'll leave all of those other things, the fame and the charm and all of it. I just want to be me, whoever me actually is. I think I want to meet her first. The fairy godmother picked herself up out of her collapsed biscuit throne and straightened her bent wings. She winked at Annie. Wisdom you were born with, she said. Here's my card, dear, if you get into strife with Tweedledum and Tweedledee. Call me, any time. No strife, said the demon. Just don't send me back. It's hell back there, literally. It paused, face scrunched up like it had just eaten something unpleasant. You're doing a good job, it said, finally. That's right, said Annie. I hope you enjoyed this story. Thank you for listening. If you did enjoy it and you want more stories, perhaps you would like to become a patron. Subscribers receive bonus stories and other mysterious things, including my endless thanks, which you can find out more about on patreon.com/Can I Tell You a Story. It's patreon.com/Can I Tell You a Story. Until next time, I hope that if you have a shoulder demon, he's a little bit kinder than usual, and maybe your fairy godmother gives you a ginger biscuit.